Warning: This creepypasta.
Warning: This Feelspasta contains content that may upset some viewers. If you are easily sensitive, please click away from this video. Viewer discretion is advised.
Is anybody familiar with Sailor Moon? Well, I've recently gotten into it since December of 2021. It's currently in my interests now. I'm easily diverted to the character Makoto Keener, aka Sailor Jupiter, because she is headstrong, down to earth, and a very nice person overall. But I'm going to tell you a heartbreaking story that you may relate to. Makoto's parents died in a plane crash when she was 7 years old, leaving her as an orphan. Recently, I've discovered a dramatic moment that changed my life with Sailor Moon. I was simply just looking on the Madman website and checking out some Sailor Moon videos on YouTube. I checked out some Sailor Moon DVDs I thought of getting. Just then, I got a mail notification from Madman themselves. I opened up the email and it said, "Hello, name withheld. We heard that you are devoted to Sailor Moon, which we are proud of. We would like to share a heartbreaking file that Toei sent us with, the English voice actors dubbing the scene." It was a deleted scene from Makoto's debut episode, which has been cut for not only taking up the runtime, but because it was too distressing for our audience. Please watch privately, but don't share it online. That was very unusual of Madman to email me, if they didn't even know me. Perhaps one of my friends or family members told me about my love for Sailor Moon. Told them. I opened the file and it was called Makoto's Parents.mrv. I felt touched seeing a file name like that. I opened up the file anyway to watch it. Before the file started, up came a disclaimer. This scene of the Sailor Moon episode, Jupiter, the powerful girl in love, has been removed for extending the runtime and being too emotional for our target audience. Please watch it at your own risk. I gulped, preparing for an emotional roller coaster. Well, here I go, I said under my breath. It started with Usagi Tsukino and Makoto Kino walking out of school, which may have taken place after the latter joined the team.
So, Mako, remember when you told me you packed your lunch yourself?
Usagi asked. Makoto looked at Usagi in the eyes, frowning. Yes? Why is that? Makoto asked.
Do you have a family?
Asked Usagi. Makoto stared at Usagi, frowning, before her face formed into sadness and her mouth began to tremble. No, Makoto answered. I don't. Usagi's smile shifted to shock.
You don't?
Makoto's eyes began to well with tears as she locked her eyes away from Usagi. They disappeared in my life, said Makoto. Usagi guessed what Jupiter was referring to.
You mean that they're...
Yes, Makoto interrupted, choking up. Usagi gasped. Seeing a cheerful and optimistic character being sad could make those feel bad. Makoto's eyes locked back on Usagi, with a tear streaming down her cheek already. My parents meant everything to me, she said. Her eyes then made contact with the sun. I loved them so much. The scene faded to a shot of the hospital where Makoto was born. She was being held by her mother as her father watched her. A very melancholic song started playing in the background, which sounded like an instrumental of the credit song, Princess Moon, only with different lyrics and a sadder feel. It later showed 1-year-old Makoto being put in a cot by her parents, who decided to read her a bedtime story before kissing her goodnight. The scene then faded to a 2-year-old Makoto having her first steps, walking up to her father before embracing him. It then showed 3-year-old Makoto having a piggyback ride with her mother walking to a picnic. They were laughing lovingly and playing. It then showed 5-year-old Makoto kneeling in a white flower bed. She looked up in the sky, to which her father took a photo of, before her mother put her hand on her husband's shoulder. It Then cut to 6-year-old Makoto being held by her parents on both hands. They were at the park, pushing her on the swings, going down the slide with her, and another clip showed them at the beach together. Then it showed the most distressing scene in a Sailor Moon episode of history. Makoto's parents were bidding farewell to their 7-year-old daughter at the airport, leaving her in care of her uncle. They embraced her and goodbye and walked away. At her uncle's house, Makoto's uncle picked up a newspaper and he was stunned. He informed Makoto that her parents had died in a plane crash. Makoto's eyes began to well with tears, before finally breaking down, crying and hugging her uncle for comfort. Her uncle tousled her hair to comfort her before putting his hand on her cheek to make her look at it. I began to shed a tear listening to the music and watching that scene. The scene faded to B-roll footage of trees and green leaves before cutting to Makoto in a car, hanging her head in shame. Makoto's uncle drove to an apartment that was a friend of his, where a friend of his lived. Makoto went out of the car and bid her uncle farewell, with tears still in her eyes. The two then embraced tearfully before the uncle went back in his car to drive away and possibly never see her again. Uncle Kino drove away from the apartment before it showed a shot of young Makoto staring at the car, her lips quivering. The scene beautifully transitioned from a close-up of young Makoto's face to older Makoto's face. She was tearing up already, sitting in fetal position. The shot then widened to reveal Usagi, visibly shocked and already shedding tears of her own. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you had no family or friends that cared for you? I have that exact same story, Makoto told, choking up. Usagi then shuffled a bit closer to reassure the poor tall girl, trying to fight back her tears.
Mako, I'm sorry your parents had to go. I never knew they'd
Just go. Makoto finally interrupted, about to cry, burying her head into her knees. Usagi was shocked. Makoto began sobbing quietly. She felt hurt seeing her new friend cry. She darted her eyes away to faint. Makoto continued sobbing, thinking about her now deceased parents, before she felt a touch on her shoulder. She stopped sobbing before looking aside. It was Usagi, smiling warmly at her.
Mako, I can help you with your past. I can walk you home.
Makoto's frown then grew into a small smile. Really? Thanks, Usagi. You're a really nice girl a tall girl could ever want, she said, wiping a tear away from her eye. She and Usagi held hands and walked home. The video faded to black. I closed the file and went over to my fridge to grab a water bottle. I then finally broke down, sobbing softly. The entire sequence reminded me of the When She Loved Me scene from Toy Story 2 where Jessie was abandoned by Emily. I emailed Man afterwards. They thanked me for watching it and revealed that Susan Roman, Jupiter's English voice actress, cried recording her dialogue after the song. They even wished me a good day, and I bid them a goodbye. I lied in bed, holding both my Jessie doll and Sailor Jupiter cute Posket figure on both my sides. This story reminded me of someone I know on Instagram who is similar to Sailor Jupiter in a way. If you ever lost someone in your life who cared for you, this story can relate.